Does Leviticus 25 teach that Old Testament slaves were to be treated like property? Well, if you conflate the word slave with the slavery that occurred 4,000 years later in the antebellum South, then words like possession and acquisition would make them look like things with zero rights, the owner doing with them as he pleased. But if you rightly divide this with other passages, these words could not possibly have the negative connotation some suggest. Notice just a few verses later in Leviticus 25 that the redemption price of a slave was not based on his personhood, but on the value of their labor output. When we use the language of buying, selling, or trading sports players, we're not diminishing these players as people, we're simply referring to the work that they perform. So it's possible for legal transaction language such as this to be used without suggesting that the person is a thing with no values or rights. But what if I'm wrong and the word property is in reference to the person and not their labor output? Well, the skeptic would be wrong too, because the Old Testament is clear that these slaves were not treated like things. Israel was commanded to love them as they loved themselves, the second greatest commandment, God reminding them that they had been in the same position. This hardly equates to treating them like a beat-up piece of furniture. A person who became poor and had to sell himself in no way lessened his worth, and there was no greater nation on earth at that time in which to sell yourself than Israel, whose humane moral laws sharply contrasted those of their pagan neighbors.